just picked up this shotgun from Dave Macbeth at Shooter Ready in Cambridge, and I've literally just pulled it out of the box. So you're about to see what happens and what is inside this green, flash green case here. Beretta makes pretty good quality cases. Weird thing about these ones is that you have to open them from the top, not the bottom, to click them open like that. And then inside we've got a nice pamphlet for the A400 Explorer, a introduction pamphlet to read, awesome quality Beretta user manuals, product register, and this is the gun, all bagged up still, nice and pretty. So here, barrel. So this is the blue synthetic model. Apparently it was the last one in the country. So this is a 28-inch model, and you can see it has a mid bead and a fibre optic red bead with the external chokes. And I don't know what that's for exactly, but that just comes off. This bag has got the main action of the shotgun. Have a look at that. Now to get the barrel on with these, you just turn this half turn or quarter turn, pull it off. It's bright green to help you find it when you drop it. Put the receiver back and then slide the barrel on. It should go in, maybe not. There we go. This is all still covered in the factory lube, which I'll clean up a little bit later on. Push it all back together. Barrel cap on again. Another quarter turn till it goes click, and then it's done. That's that part done. Okay, there's other stuff that comes in the box. So we've got one choke in there, and then we've got 4 spares. And that covers the whole range that you'll need for any kind of hunting. And got a mag tube block, stock extension. And here I've got the shims to change the length of, not the length of pole, to change the cant on the stock. And there's also some extra screws, I think, which are probably for the spacer. And in there's also a couple of sling swivels. And I probably won't use any of those. We'll see how it goes. This tool here is for taking off the, I'll show you quickly. Goes in here. Now one good thing about these models, to put the magazine block in, all you do is push it straight in, which is a heck of a lot easier than the previous systems. Oh, actually there's one in there already. There's already one in there, so that's got to come out first. So you use this tool and you push down on these to then pull out the spring. To remove the plug that's holding the spring in place here. Now it's a stainless steel plug. It is used to hold the B-lock nut system. It's not very simple to get out. You'll see that it has got these 4 little pins that are basically under a tension of an O-ring that's pushing out. So they have to be pushed in to remove that plug, and it's quite tricky. Key thing is, don't force anything, just be quite gentle. Line it up, push it on as far as you need to get these pins lined up with the plungers there, and just push down on each one, each at a time, and then you'll feel it actually pop out under spring pressure. I'm not exerting any pressure on it. Then you can make sure you hold this, and then it should once you get these little clips off, it will just fall off like that. Oops, like that, perfect. And one other tip, once you've take this off, if you want to put it back together, leave the pin in. Okay, you can leave it in and hold it out a little bit if you want to take it right out, but it does help to guide the spring on if you can use it. So this is how I reassemble it. Push it back through. Hopefully I won't push it off the table. It's going to move. Okay, so line this magazine plug up with through your spring and use it to help guide it back on. Okay, and then this is the tricky part. The only way you can do it is to really push each 4 of these pins in at the same time and push it on. Once it's on, then make sure they're lined up, and you'll see when it comes through. I've lined it up perfectly the first time, and that's pretty much it. It does take practice. Don't do it outside. Make sure you wear safety glasses, and don't have small children around you while you're doing this, because they'll lose an eye too. Getting the magazine plug out of this shotgun can be quite tricky. There are a couple of ways I've seen of how to do it online. The best way to do it is to use something like this. When the barrel and forestock have been removed from the shotgun, you can actually push something like this down the magazine tube, and it'll push the plunger and spring, and it'll eventually pop out the plug, and you can just pull it out. That's one way. The other way, which I don't recommend, although it would be quite practical out in the field, is you can push shells down there. And the final method that I've used to remove this plug from the magazine tube is to use a small set of long nose pliers. And it can be quite tricky though. You do have to have relatively small long nose pliers to get in there to be able to grab the outside of this plastic rod to pull it out. Okay guys, I just want to point out a couple of key features on the shotgun that I like when compared to my previous Beretta Xtreme 2. First thing is, it comes with this factory bolt handle. Now, I'm a big fan of the big bolt handles. They don't get in the way. I know a lot of Kiwi duck shooters would probably feel that their masculinity is threatened by such a big object, but believe me, these things make life really simple. They don't get caught on stuff, and they are just really, really functional and really practical. They make charging that handle a lot easier, that's for sure. And the other thing is this big button. Once again, looks really big and obtrusive, but serves a really, really important function. To demonstrate how easy it is to close these shotguns, I'll press on it with one finger and it will close. Now, the advantages of this loading port: when you put your finger in on the green follower, it does not get stuck on it. Now, if you ask me, that's a big advantage. Whether you're putting your finger or your thumb in there, usually it's thumb. If you put your thumb in here, whoa, it's hard to do one-handed, it's not going to get stuck. So that's a big advantage. Also looks really smart. The anodizing on this particular model, the grey anodizing, looks awesome. New feature that's an improvement on the previous A400 and certainly a step up from my old Beretta Xtreme 2 is this step on the rib. Now, I like having a step on the rib, some people don't. It's really up to your preference. Personally, it makes no difference. I do have a trap gun that has a very high rib, so I'm used to shooting with it. Beretta have also added this new mid bead onto their shotgun. It has some purpose, but not particularly important. And compared to my old Xtreme, they've got a fiber optic type front bead. Once again, not really essential. For me, it's not something that I use. I don't use either sight. Yes, the sights are important if you want to verify that your gun is looking in the same direction that you are. But after that, really your eyes should be focused on the duck, not on the sights, so they become irrelevant. My thoughts on the kickoff recoil system. Now, I've had 2 of these shotguns now, the Beretta Xtreme 2 and now this A400 with the kickoff system. They're basically the same in that they have shock absorbers and springs, well, they're basically springs in here to help absorb the recoil. The only difference was in the Xtreme 2, the absorption occurred back here, and the A400 it occurs in this rubber section through here. They also have a third shock absorber in here, which just basically stops the bolt whacking the back of the receiver, and that's called the Kickoff 3. Now, in my opinion, I wouldn't go back to any other type of shotgun after using this for duck shooting, because they do work. Any heavy loads, it'll certainly mitigate, you know, a lot of recoil. I wouldn't necessarily believe the percentages that Beretta quotes, but from practical experience, yeah, you can't beat them. They do work really, really well. And that's, I guess, the kind of the reason why you end up paying a little bit more for this type of shotgun. The other thing is the way these things are designed and the way they're improved. Everything has been very well thought out, and everything does its job very, very well. You know, simple things like this textured grip here, which is great, amazingly grippy. Even the design of the barrel and the forearm retaining nut here, it's awesome, very well thought out. Yes, it's plastic, but it is very hard, and it does reduce weight. Now, as far as weight goes, I haven't seen the exact figures, but from my guess, I would say that this shotgun is slightly lighter than the Xtreme 2, and I think most of that weight reduction will be in the bolt, because this bolt is a lot smaller and a lot lighter. It's been certainly cut down as much as they possibly could. It's only really about that long between there and there, and so what has happened in this one as well, I've read that the receiver has been shortened by about 1 inch, so that also helps reduce a little bit of weight. It's a really nice balanced gun. If you've ever used a Benelli M2, it'll come up similar to that. The problem is, well, the only difference between this gun and the Benelli is that you've obviously got a gas system in here rather than inertia. This will be a little bit heavier, but this will absorb a heck of a lot more recoil. Right, I've just pulled the gun apart and given it a quick clean. Just a few tips and things that I think are important for you to know. If you do buy any brand new firearm, it's a good idea to give it a good clean, to clean off all the factory oils and protective coatings that they like to put on them to prevent them rusting in the boxes. Now, just pointing out a few things that I think will be useful for you if you do buy one of these shotguns. Firstly, it's really important not to leave too much oil on these shotguns, particularly in this area here on the magazine tube. It doesn't actually need much in the way of lubrication because of the fact that this has some kind of Teflon type coating on it. So good to keep it clean. It is where all the gas is coming through, so it will get some carbon buildup on there towards the end. So keep it cleaned off, but don't leave heavy deposits of oil on there. Spray it down, clean it, and then wipe it off. Wipe all the oil off from that region. Same as what you would do in the trigger mechanism and in the receiver. You don't need to chuck a lot of oil on there. Just clean it off and then give it a light spray and clean that off as well. Wipe it down. You can put some oil on the back half of the bolt on this rod here, because that does move inside the aluminium receiver here. But apart from that, I even keep this relatively clean. As soon as you start putting oil on these types of moving parts, they tend to cake up with powder gunk basically. So avoid putting oil or leaving oil in these areas. Don't put any oil on this at all, this part here. Don't touch it, it's all corrosion resistant. It's mostly stainless steel. The only part you need to clean in here is this gas valve. Okay, this hasn't been shot at all obviously, but keep that nice and clean and remove all excess oil. If you do use solvents and oils, remove all of the oils before you put that back in, because that will cake up, particularly around this region over here. And I quite often use a copper brush to remove any deposits on there. The inside won't get very dirty, but just wipe that clean as well. Important things to note, this spring is supposed to have a brake in it, of course, and it's an elastic spring, elastic ring, and it functions to, it basically regulates the gas, the amount of gas that drives the piston back. So, and it's self-regulating, so it'll self-regulate depending on the load that you use. Make sure when you put this back in, make sure that the opening in the ring is pointing down, and that way it'll keep functioning properly. The teeth on this ring, apparently, according to Beretta, serve to keep the inside of the gas system clean. In here, you'll see that there's two holes. Those holes go through to the barrel, and that's where the gas is bleeded off through. Now, you shouldn't have to clean this very often. I would clean mine usually probably after every weekend. So after I've done maybe 2 or 3 days worth of shooting, just to keep the deposits down. If you clean this regularly, it's much easier to clean. If you clean it at the end of the season, you're going to need to use the copper brush, the wire brush, to get it clean. So I've just given this gun a good wipe down with some gun treatment, G96. Now, I highly recommend this product. It smells really good, it works really well. It is quite expensive, but it's a great product. One of these will last me over a year, keeping all my firearms well protected. They usually cost between about $35 to $45. If you race over to Shoot Already in Cambridge, I'm sure Dave Macbeth will be able to sort you out a decent deal on some of this stuff. This is a big can, 12 ounce can, 340 gram, so it will last a long time. Tip that I want to give you guys for cleaning the barrel. So remember, this is a brand new shotgun. Even if it's not brand new, after every shoot, when you get home at night, before you open a can of beer or a stubby, make sure you clean your gun, and that means running a patch through the barrel as well. Don't worry about running a wire brush through. What I suggest you do though is you use a wire brush or an old wire brush like this, and wrap a piece of, this is an old sheet, wrap a piece of fabric around it, spray that, and then run that through the barrel, and it makes quite a good jag. It's a good way to use up these old brushes, which are pretty stuffed anyway. You can see I've wrapped this a lot of times, and it's now covered in cotton, but that's okay. So yeah, you basically put a piece around it, and then spray some oil on it, or down the barrel, either, and run it through a couple of times to get all of the fouling out, all of the powder residues and stuff out of your barrel. Now, these barrels are chrome lined. They're very hard. You're not going to scratch them, and you're not going to damage them. So you can be quite vigorous if you do need to clean them. Now, this shotgun is adjustable for drop and cast on the stock. Okay, so drop means the angle can be shifted down or up to suit you. The cast of the stock will be set up from the factory for a right-hand shooter. So basically, the stock will be curved back towards the screen for a right-hand shooter, so to the right, only very slightly, and that is to allow for your face basically to get in behind the barrel. And if you're a left-hand shooter, you've got to shift it the other direction so that it's curving to the left. And so what you've got to do that is you've got to take out, there's a shim in here, and there's also another piece in behind here that it's relatively tricky to do, but it will make a big difference to your shooting. So how do you know if you need to adjust this? If you're left-handed, definitely adjust it out of the box, fix it straight away, get it set up properly. If you're right-handed, don't adjust anything unless you find that your shot impact is off to one side, or is too high or too low. And the only way to test that is to actually shoot it at some paper or at a pattern board to give you an idea. Now, there are quite a few videos of people shooting at pattern boards and paper on YouTube, so do have a look. And a lot of people will say that they want their shot to be dead in the center. As far as left and right, yes, that's where your shot should be. Up and down, it doesn't matter if your shot is a little bit high. So for trap shooting, for example, you're probably looking at 60% high, 40% low. And the reason for that is that your targets are always rising, and it can be quite useful to set your duck gun up the same, because what you want when you're shooting, you want to be able to see the duck above your barrel. So I quite like having it a little bit high, if not dead flat. So at the end of the day, that's up to you how you set that up. But the best indication you'll notice is if you're doing a kill shot on the water and you can't hit them on the water, then it's either something to do with your eye dominance or the patterning of your shotgun, so the drop in the cast of the stock. So you need to address those issues really early if you are finding that you're missing easy targets like water targets. So these are the 5 chokes that come with the A400 from left to right. We've got cylinder, improved cylinder, modified, improved modified and full, and they're all clearly labelled. You can look at the stars on the top to give an indication of how restrictive the choke is, and you can also read the information down here about whether it's steel approved. For example, you're not supposed to use these last 2 chokes, full and improved modified. You're not supposed to use them for steel shot, they're not rated for steel. Beretta says in the manual that you will get a deformed pattern if you use it, so don't bother using those 2 for steel. For steel, you can use either the modified or the improved cylinder or the cylinder. My preference would probably be to go for the improved cylinder. If you like to do a lot of long shots, then you might want to go for the modified, but otherwise just stick to these open ones. They work really well. As far as factory chokes are concerned, they do a very good job. So if you've watched any of my duck shooting videos, guys, you will see me shooting with this choke here, the improved cylinder. And for what I do, paradise duck shooting and regular mallard duck shooting, this choke is perfect. If I'm shooting lead over land on paradise ducks, they come in close, so I can get a lot of good clean kills in close with good pattern, a wide spread at close range with this choke. And to be fair, it also works effectively, just as effectively at long range. We use mostly probably number 2 shot or number 3 shot for the paradise ducks. As far as mallard shooting goes, I also like to use this choke. It works very effectively on 3-inch number 2 and number 3 shot steel, and a lot of my shooting distances are very mixed. So when I'm pond shooting, the ranges are close, birds are close, I want a good spread of my pattern, and this choke is pretty effective at that. If I needed a more open spread, then I'd have to go to the next one down, or more open in constriction, which is this one here, the cylinder choke. And so anyway, I would stick to this if I don't want to have to change chokes all the time. This one is a very versatile choke, seems to do the job pretty well. And I believe that these factory chokes, there are no issues with pattern. They do pattern really well, so I don't think I'll bother buying any of these pattern master type chokes. I don't think they're necessary from my experience and from what I've seen on YouTube as far as pattern testing videos go. I don't think it's worth it. Stick to these, they're really good. So all of the Beretta shotguns come with this particular choke tool, and it's plain and it's simple. It is very solid. It is made of, the handle's made of plastic, but you'll see the teeth are metal. And the great thing about this is that when you unscrew it, it retains the choke. So the choke will come off with it. It won't fall off.